Alright, so moving on to American Pie presents The Naked Mile. Alright, so yeah, this was pretty good too. So this story is a little bit different, as there's not one, but two Stiflers in this movie. But the story revolves around Eric Stifler, played by John White. You don't know who John White is? Go watch the Goosebumps episode, The Cuckoo Clock Doom. Goosebumps episode, The Cuckoo Clock Doom. Cuckoo Clock Doom. He's in that. So, and he's also Steve in the Goosebumps two-parter Haunted Mass 2. So he's in those. And he's good here too. He plays Eric Stifler. Eric! And he's the only Stifler to not be like Stifler. Like, he's not a jackass. He's not a ladies' man. He's not like a regular Stifler would be. He's normal, basically. Although there is one incident at the beginning of the movie where his parents and his grandmother are going to go on a trip. So he decides while they're gone, he's going to rub one out. And, well, what he didn't anticipate is that they forgot the tickets. So they had to come back, and he happens to be finishing up when the grandma walks to the door and causes her to have a heart attack and die. So, yeah, that's how it begins, folks. I'm serious. That's how the movie begins. And so, yeah, that's how the movie begins. So just keep that in mind. So we get the basic story is that Eric has a girlfriend. And you think, oh, if he has a girlfriend, why is he rubbing one out? Because she's celibate, and she wants to be celibate. And that's the reason why her ex-boyfriend, Trent, broke up with her. And believe me, we'll come back to him, because this film and the next film, it's okay, so, so one night, she decides she wants to do it, but it doesn't work, because her dad comes down, and yeah, it just doesn't work. And so he goes on a trip with his friends Kuz, yes, that's his nickname, and Ryan. And they're going to the college to see Eric's cousin Dwight, who is the Stifler of this film. He's very much a Stifler, although he is nicer than perhaps the Stifler from the OG Stifler. That's what I like about him, is that he's normal-ish. He's still got the Stifler kind of stuff. He's a ladies' man. He's got that attitude and everything. But unlike Matt, he doesn't need a redemption story because he's not, like, I get the sense that these Stifler cousins are on, like, a different side of the spectrum than the other Stiflers. Because, like, Matt and Steve were jackasses. I don't know if Steve even stopped, but just, like, this other side, they're a little more normalish. I mean, like I said, Dwight is kind of like that, but he's not as, excessive as Steve would be. And so, Eric's girlfriend, whose name escapes me at the moment, is it Katie? Tracy, gives him a guilt-free weekend to do whatever he wants. Which means if he wants to, this is her excuse because she doesn't want him to leave him because she won't have sex with him. We'll come back to that. She, they couldn't have sex. He's going, and so she, and she's really kind of doesn't know sure if she'll even want to have sex yet. So she gives him a guilty-free weekend. And yeah, so he does meet Brandy, but we'll get to that. So what they're doing at this college is they're going to go to the annual Naked Mile, which is where everyone gets all naked and runs for a mile. There's two reasons why I wouldn't do that. My ass ain't getting naked. And my ass ain't gonna run. Okay? And I know I want to see this fat ass naked. Anyway. So in this film, they have a rival frat, a small person frat, led by Rock here. Now, yeah, so we get to the college, we get to the Beta House, we meet Dwight and his best friend, Bull, who's not in the... Yeah, he's right there. Bull, you're gay. That's what he's doing. And yes, Mr... Yes, Eugene Levy is in this too. He has a small role. He's talking to Eric, and then it was the beginning of the film, and he shows up to start off this Naked Mile, and it's just, they're running. That's all it is. While they're there, they meet women that they sort of pair off with. They explain that Ryan's the jock, but they've been best friends just like forever. And then there's Mike Koosman, or they call him Coos, because, you know. And the whole story is basically whether or not Eric is going to cheat on Tracy with Brandy. And it gets close, but he decides not to. Only thing I want to mention is that Eric's dad is played by Christopher McDonald. You know him from Grace 2, Happy Gilmore. I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast. You eat pieces of shit for breakfast? No? Yeah, right. And Grizzly Adams had a beard. Grizzly Adams did have a beard. You know, him. And he's in this, really a cameo. It's really a cameo in the second film, too, but the next film. Because this and Beta House are connected, which I think is pretty cool. They're the only two that are actually connected to each other. Although we do see, and there's a thing in the room where we see a picture of Steve, a picture of Matt, and a picture of Dwight. So there's that Stifler connection. And it is Ted Hilgenbrink, Matt. So there's your connection. And, yeah, so, before the run, so Stifler, Dwight, gets attacked by the little person frat, and he's put in a hospital. And he says he doesn't think he's going to make it, but he attaches IVs to his arms so he can do it, which I don't know if that'll work, because once you run, isn't it going to pull the needle out? Ow! I'm going to think about that. And he hands the guys little pills. And they say, oh, it must be ecstasy. So they take him right away so that they can enjoy their run. But it turns out Eric doesn't take his right away. The other two do. Turns out that it's not ecstasy, it's boner pills. So, yeah, we don't get to see it, thank God. There is a lot of man ass in this if you're into that. But, no, there's also a lot of titties, too. So if you're into that, like I am. Yeah, just, not a naked people running around. What I like is that, Eugene Levy's putting out a speech, and he's talking about pubic regions, and he said, or breasts for your females, and they're like shaking him and stuff, and for some of you young males, and there's this fat guy just goes, covers it up. He's like, it's funny. That would be me. I'd be like, talking about Jim's dad. Because I wouldn't know Jim. Anyway, yeah, so they do the thing. They hook up. Kuz gets something shoved up his poopy hole. And then, we don't see it, thank God. And then Eric decides he can't do it with Brandy. So he takes off. He drives. And he runs out of gas. Which I never understand the running out of gas thing in films. If you're in the middle of nowhere driving, I get that. If it's one of those road trip movies where you're in the middle of nowhere out of gas, I get that. Right? But As soon as he got in the car, he should have looked at the gauge to see if he needed gas first. Then got the gas, then drove back. But he didn't. And that's because we needed to have a callback to the beginning. Because at the beginning, he was talking about all the stuff he did with his girlfriend. And one of them was riding a horse, where he tried to jump and the horse stopped for some reason and flung him off. So we had to call back to that and justify that by him finding a random horse that just happened to be all locked up where he left the car, where he was forced to stop the car, and he rides over to Tracy's house, where her dad answers the door. I almost said phone, and he's like, oh, well, she went to some party with her friends, and so this is where I'm gonna get a little bit pissed, a little bit pissy, and a little bit, critical of this. So as soon as she gets there, her friends, because she goes to her friends, okay, so she sees Brandy kiss Eric on the TV for the Naked Mile. Which, why would they broadcast that? That's disgusting. But anyway, they see that happen. So the friends, instead of encouraging her to talk to him, they say, fuck him, go hook up with Trent. I'm like, what friends are these? Your friends should be encouraging you, hey, you should go talk to him. Figure out what's going on. By the way, it's her fault, by the way. She said, guilt-free weekend. Now, I know that's a trap, but she wouldn't say it if she didn't at some minute point mean it. I know she called and left a message, but that didn't get to him, I guess. But it gives a, guilt-free weekend, and it was one kiss. And she kissed him, by the way. And she freaks out and she's going to sleep with Trent, right? And she's like, well, we have a guilt-free weekend. I'm like, bitch. He had a guilt-free weekend. Yes, I know. The friends tell Eric we gave her a guilt-free weekend. That doesn't count because he didn't know about it. He didn't approve it. She approved of his guilt-free weekend. She said, you can have a guilt-free weekend. He did not. Therefore, she was not in the right to even think about sleeping with Trent. That's the thing. She says, oh, we're on a guilt-free weekend. He is, you're not, because you guys talked about it, about his guilt-free weekend. You didn't talk about it for yours. Your friend just said, oh, you can have a guilt-free weekend too. And you just took that. Without consulting your boyfriend, you just went ahead. But she couldn't go through with it. And then her and Eric do it. And, he shows up the next day with breakfast for the guys, and they go. And then there's this little thing at the end where Dwight gets even with Rock by sleeping with his little person girlfriend. And then the credits kind of roll with pictures of them together going around the world, I guess. I don't know. But he's like, Payback's a bitch, and he gives him the finger and stuff. And yeah, this one's pretty good. I'll give it a 7. I enjoy it. It's not as good as the next one, which I really love. One of my favorites. Probably be high on my ranking when I do it. Now, I'm trying to figure out whether or not I'm going to rank it when I finish the series, or if I'm going to wait till the new one comes in like, whenever it comes out this year. Which, if it even comes out this year, because who knows with the Schmandemic or Sharona's going around, so who knows. But yeah, this is pretty good. 7, at least. What are you guys' thoughts on American Pie Presents The Naked Mile? Let me know in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe. I've been Scotty. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Did it backwards.